Not just the day. At first. My career.
Silver sandwich. There you go.
You joke.
Come on.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
there are stop signs on both sides. So people who are coming from the flag line and, you know, either way, they're supposed to stop, correct?
Especially if you're riding a bicycle, it says on here too, cyclists must stop at all road crossings. Heeding the trail signage is an important step to keeping yourself safe.
Right, but
Not
wouldn't the
only that,
walkers,
it is a rule as well.
wouldn't the walkers have that same regulation?
They should be using, what's called blue regard. They shouldn't be walking just straight out into traffic thinking that they have the right of way. It's really kind of an instant judgment call on that, whether or not they come to a stop, do they look, or are they just running across, jogging and saying, I'm not stopping? Well, that's kind of I mean, to put it bluntly, and for lack of a better term, it's almost a death wish. So I really reach out to those that are utilizing the trail system to heed those warnings and stop. And if there's an accident or something, yeah, we're gonna look into that and investigate.
I mean, I do stop, but from here to my in-laws, I cross the bug line several times.
Yeah.
Because my in-laws live across from Village Bowl. Well, if you're taking that route, you cross the bug line several times.
Yeah.
Just in that one area, and many times out of the corner of my eyes, I will see walkers or bikers who are not stopping, and they have the stop sign. And so then I have to hit my brakes to avoid hitting them because they think they have the right of way. And
We'll
so I'm
dig into
just,
that
just
further.
curious for clarification.
Yeah. That is a violation. I'll dig into it further to see exactly what we can do about it when we see it. But that is an official stop sign there for that trail system. So I'll dig into it and see what the ramifications are.
Cause I can't believe I'm the only driver that wonders that.
And they shouldn't be just coming out. They have a responsibility to wait. So it goes both ways, cars and.
It does, it does, but I just wanted some clarification on that. Thank you, Patrick.
Just to add a comment, Chief, I think you turn the department around, you become very proactive. A lot of people are noticing that, and that's a positive change. And I think we owe you and the entire department a big thank you. Job well done.
And that goes for all of you too. I mean, Officer Correnda is doing an outstanding job, but it's a team effort, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
It is.
Thank you.
All right, item number 8, response to previous citizens' comments. There were none. That will not be the case next month, I don't think. Citizens' comments. This is meant for public comments on any subject without any discussion by Board of Trustee members or action, except for possible referral to a governmental body or village agent.
There is nothing on the sign-up sheet.
No, I know, but Mike, did you have any comments or did you want to?
Me? No.
You gotta be here.
Hey, the
Okay.
police department's doing a great job. He interrupts you when you're trying to get something done.
Okay, any citizen comments? No? Okay. All right, great. Great job, citizens. Kudos for everybody tonight. Item number 10, public hearing for a conditional use permit for Lemke Stone Inc. at 7086 North Town Line Road, Landon, Wisconsin, 52046, to stockpile crushed gravel. I almost made a parking sign for you out here, Jason. You've been here so much lately.
I know.
But I don't even have one yet, so.
You can work on that. You got a sign? You know, you got a good sign guy?
I know somebody that can make one.
You probably won't have a permit.
Right. Okay, so, public hearing. So I guess I would like to need a motion to open the hearing. No. All right, I'll open the public hearing. Do we have anybody that, cares to make comments regarding that? No? Now it's.
Now it is.
Yeah, Mike Bridge, 20545 West Good Hope. As far as crushing stone on the Lemke property, she's been coming in here for years after years after years to crush stone down there. currently the pile on the western side is like about 25, 30 feet. It's gonna take a lot more if you're over in Whispering Ridge area to look to see that go up another 10, 12 feet. Because I think I read that you guys wanted to go to 40 feet. That is a lot easier to deal with than this massive pile of rubble down here behind the AFW that's at 25 feet and growing. And that the whole town has to see. What he's got back there, I don't think you guys should have any problem. I noticed you guys had a lot of time trying to figure out at what depth to measure it from. You measure it from the hard rock where they start piling, and when they take it all down, they can only go off a hard rock.
That's what
So,
we're doing.
and there's telephone poles up behind there that are up high enough that you can tell when the pile gets to a certain height. So I don't see, as far as a citizen, I know I'm not within 300 feet of it, but I don't see any problem with Twenty Stone having that crushed stone down there. You know, so.
Thank you. We are making some progress on the AFW, by the way, you'll be happy to hear.
That's what Brenda was telling me.
Any other comments for the public hearing? Okay, hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. And move on to item number 11, which is discussion and possible action on approval of conditional use permit for Lemke Stone Inc. at 7086 North Town Line Road, Lander, Wisconsin, 53046. Council, would you like to
Yes,
lead us off on this one?
yes. I believe that Brenda has shared with you a copy of the revised conditional use permit. I think there are some extra copies if anybody wants. And I attempted to incorporate the comments and requests made by the Plan Commission when this matter last came before the Plan Commission. I do know that Mr. Grimm raised a point with regards to the 40-foot height measurement, which is line 26. But otherwise, I believe that most of these issues have been resolved, including the liability insurance provisions, line 54 through 57, which has been spelled out as to what that coverage is intended to deal with. And the length of this permit is 1 year. There was a request for the installation of some kind of a tracking pad installation, which was incorporated also in lines 46 through 47.
I think if I'm not mistaken, the paved area probably meets that length requirement, right?
Correct.
I did drive down there today because you said we could,
Absolutely.
and there's a pretty good washout right down the middle of that road. Your trucks probably don't care, but my dainty little Kia was a little worried.
The problem is when you know you're gonna get 2 inches of rain the next night.
Yep.
Just showing what, yeah, well, I'll get on that for you, President.
I'm not going down there. So.
I have a question or request for clarification.
Yes.
On line number 24, it's under item 2, it says no temporary storage across dome may occur closer than 500 feet to the parcel boundary line of any non-quarry property. So if you measure north to south from the back of Whispering Ridge condos up to Kelly's storage, that's less than 500 feet already. So I think, unless I'm missing something that kind of undermines the intent of the CUP,
Yeah,
maybe that dimension is intended to be revised.
I don't remember discussing that in planning commission, that 500 feet from property line. I think we were so focused on 40 feet that we didn't address the 500 feet. Good catch,
So-
Ben.
The 500 feet language comes from like the baseline zoning recording
Mhm.
that, but I was just trying to, I apologize, I did not review this ahead of time, but, I was trying to just maybe eyeball off of the figure provided what a reasonable.
Maybe there's an extra zero on there.
Yeah. Yeah, because what would be the purpose of 500 feet from an adjoining property? That does seem pretty
Please show me,
excessive.
Like roughly the expense of the pile. And where would the total pile be? Kind of like, is that
Yeah.
what it is?
That lot probably isn't even 500 feet wide at that point. where it's put in.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's
Yeah.
it's not even 500 feet from the,
Yeah.
like, the back of the condos to Kelly's
Yeah.
storage. Yeah, it's 294 feet.
Mhm.
Of course, it goes a little. It's a little further up, but yeah, you're right, there's less than 500 between the trail and.
And the intent of keeping any pile, any distance from a property line is what? Visual runoff?
Visual.
Yeah.
Probably nuisance.
Can we change it to 50 then?
We're just kind of eyeing up here at least. If you have an image of what this looks like, Jason's explaining that the toe of the pile or the outside perimeter of the pile would roughly be as wide as the road, which you see on your, if you've got an aerial imagery of this.
Yeah.
And the closest edge of that road is about 95 feet to the back of Whispering Ridge condos. And it's kind of tightest spot. So I think that's kind of the tightest. Whole works. Would be the critical one.
You said 95
Yep,
roughly?
and that's from across the bug line to the Whispering Ridge condo.
Mhm.
Right. 90 feet? Maybe? You all right with that?
Is there a precedence that we need to worry about being established? Or is this considered a isolated circumstance?
It's conditional.
Typically, these are case by case determinations. Here, there's not going to be quarrying permitted under this conditional use permit. Only stockpiling. If quarrying was taking place, perhaps there might be other distances that come into play.
Mhm.
Is this anything different than what you've previously done?
When we hauled all that crushed stone out 2 years ago, the pile was- Distance.
So this is just a continuation of that. For how many years approximately?
The pile that they've already crushed, should be out of there by the end of the season.
Oh, no, how many years have you been doing this?
Oh,
At this,
since 87, I believe.
so this has got a very strong precedent. And I'm not aware of any issues that have been raised. Have you heard any, Patrick?
I have not. One of the neighboring property owners, I haven't heard anything from him. He doesn't mind.
Yeah, I think with this proposed use, I think everybody's fine with it. I think There's concerns that if you were to deviate from this and do what you're wanting to do there in the future, I think there's concerns over that. But with this, and if we abide by the guidelines established here, I don't have concerns on that, and I don't think anybody that lives next to me does.
Yeah, and then for any changes, Jason's already indicated he intends to come back at some point and modify this to do quarry activities. So I do notice that we've got the legal description listed here as Exhibit A. And then we had talked about an additional exhibit that speaks to what Mr. Grimm was talking about, that I believe trustee Lake had assembled that exhibit. Did you get a copy of that exhibit from
I
her?
did, yeah, she was nice enough, I believe it was within a couple of days. To
Yeah,
get that over. I didn't really want to-
yeah, I think that's the next one. So I would just suggest that, per council's recommendation at the last meeting, that perhaps we indicate or reference that exhibit as well. Just to memorialize the existing conditions at the time of the approval. Did you have any other concerns or changes you wanted to have made?
No, I'm curious what you said, because I haven't had anybody stop by and say anything, and I haven't had any phone calls.
Yeah.
Personally and or to the company. Concerned, so.
No, we're all good with that.
So we have a few modifications. I see you've taken some notes. And so I guess what we could do then is entertain a motion then to authorize me to execute an amended version of the CUP with the changes noted that we've discussed. Something along those lines
I make a motion
with the clarification, sorry, but Don, one second.
For line 26, the height, would 40 still acceptable?
Yes,
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm sorry. Carry on, Don.
I make a motion for the language that Patrick used. I don't want to recite it in screw it up.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion, and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. We should be able to get that over to you pretty quick. Thank you, sir.
You guys want me back to the next meeting?
if you want these, it has to be recorded with the register of deeds to protect your interests. So,
I need it for you.
thank you.
Thanks, Jason. Have a good night. Item number 12, discussion and possible action regarding approval of liquor license for Robert McDonald for MV Chicken and Fish Company LLC at 7300 North Landon Road, Landon, Wisconsin 53046. Brenda, everything's in order on the application?
Everything's in order, and this has been prorated for him since the licenses expire at the end of June, so he'll be applying again, so.
Okay.
Okay, well then I'd like to forward a motion that we accept and approve the alcohol beverage license application as submitted by Robert McDonald for MV Chicken and Fish Company LLC located at 7300 North Lannon Road.
One second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 13, discussion and possible action regarding approval of amusement device license for Robert McDonald for MV Chicken and Fish Company LLC at 7300 North Landon Road, Landon, Wisconsin 53046.
The only question I have, Mr. McDonald,
Yes.
is on your alcohol beverage license.
Yes.
You listed your address as Lisbon.
Okay.
But on the device, you said Sussex.
It's
They're
the same.
It's the same address, but one says Sussex, one says
I
Lisbon.
know, it's the
Yeah.
same, it's the
It's the
same
same.
zip code.
Yeah.
They're they're
You
interchangeable.
can't read the zip
Yeah.
code.
They're
Because they're all
interchangeable.
interchangeable, yeah.
Okay. I
Five,
mean,
three.
I caught that and I'm like,
Plug it in, it's the same, yeah.
Yes,
Wanted
they're
to know.
interchangeable.
Good catch. We did that on purpose, just to make sure you're watching. Well done, well done.
You passed.
I go to
Pass
the
the test,
class.
pass the test, yes, right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to make a motion to approve the amusement device license for Robert McDonald for MV Chicken and Fish Company located at 7300 North Lannon Road.
I'll second.
Motion and second, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Yeah, I think with that, that pretty much, it's the end of an era and the start of a new lineage.
11 a.m. tomorrow.
Well, congratulations.
Very nice one. Thank you. We'll keep it quiet.
You'll open it up tomorrow at 11 a.m.
No, we close tomorrow at 11 a.m.
Oh.
Yeah,
How
sorry.
long?
What's that?
For how long?
No.
I'm
it's-
sorry.
No, they're
On the
closing.
real estate tomorrow.
Oh, on the sale, okay.
Yes, we'll open tomorrow. That's like normal. So.
Excellent. Congratulations.
Yeah, we've hired everybody, everybody's staying, so it'll feel pretty much the same, and then, you'll probably see Mike and Gina running out of there super fast tomorrow.
Great. Well, don't mess it up.
We won't. Promise you I won't. I got it, we bought all of it, bought everything, we did it, we own it, so, and I've been, yes, every weekend for the last 3 weekends, learning, so, learning it all, so thank you so much.
Wax on, wax off.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Ms. Weston.
Congratulations.
Better on, better
Better
off.
off, yes, so.
All
They
right.
mentioned the monthly fee for the police department?
What's that, what?
They mentioned the monthly fee for the police department?
We got it. Yes, my sons are the ones that are helping you with the ticket numbers. I've been here to court. So. Thank you all.
Have a good night.
Item 14, discussion and possible action regarding an amendment for Strand for engineering services related to the Whispering Ridge Well House electrical upgrades and SCADA upgrades. And Mr. Wood has graciously managed to make it here tonight. So he can walk us through why they want more money.
Yep, thank you. In short, we're asking for $16,000 to help carry us through to what we foresee as the end of the contract, which should be in June. We're due for an amendment regardless for a time extension. Technically, our contract expired in January. This will be going through June. In the bulleted list here in this letter are some things that we have done to go a bit beyond our contract scope. First bullet point here, coordinate additional leak lag controls for the pumps at both well houses. When the specification was written, I'm gonna guess a year and a half ago, maybe even 2 years ago. It was under one set of direction for what controls to program and how these two facilities are gonna work together. Talking to Sarah, the operator, there were some changes that were made. We kind of discussed with Patrick and said either we do it per the plan and per the contract and then immediately change it afterwards. We probably build that under our on-call, or we just kind of get it right out of the gate, so that's the direction we went there. The next two bullet points are just to continue services for, given the duration of the contract, we need to cover 2 more progress meetings and services going through June here. The fourth bullet, I'm going to have I'm gonna struggle through this, but this has to get, it gets down to getting the Lannon SCADA system integrated and talking appropriately with the Sussex SCADA system. So previously it was set up so that the lift stations kind of would appear in the Sussex computer system a certain way. Sussex had told us even before we started this contract that once we got our own SCADA that they would want it to look a little bit differently and kind of be more, now that there's a SCADA computer here, they have interface to kind of port into this. rather than seeing it as if Lannon's infrastructure is part of their infrastructure. So some of this was just kind of untangling some of that SCADA stuff and delineating it the way that Sussex wanted to see that. So that's this amendment in a nutshell.
You'll notice on the bottom here, though, that this is, project is looking at coming in under budget.
Mhm. Well, I would like to forward a motion that we authorize an additional $16,000 as requested by Strand Engineering in regards to the Whispering Ridge Well House electrical upgrades and SCADA upgrades.
I will second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any other discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
And we can have the next one too. Discussion of possible action to authorize Strand to prepare a FEMA BRIC grant application to aid with the planned water system interconnect infrastructure to the village of Sussex.
Okay, so I'll also just provide a brief update on where we stand with the village of Sussex. Kind of we're reinvigorating that effort and targeting scheduling a meeting with Strand, both villages, and then our various finance consultants involved to kind of look at that interconnect. This is technically in the TID plan as the third source project. Nonetheless, every bit of money helps out. It came to my attention recently that the FEMA BRIC program, which I believe stands for Building Resilient Infrastructure in Communities. Yep. That program has most commonly been used for like pre-flood disaster type projects of federal government being interested in getting ahead of disasters and preparing for them rather than reacting to them. I frankly have another client in Northern Illinois that on their own was successful at getting a FEMA BRIC grant to help pay for an interconnect to a neighboring community to help kind of build the resiliency of their water system. Their grant was awarded, but then the funding got pulled by the federal government, and it was just announced on March 25th that the funding is back on. And the application period is open through July. So one quirk here is you'll see this is for fiscal years 2024, 2025. That is why these funds were part of an old federal budget that got pulled. Now they're getting recommitted. So everyone has to kind of reapply for this. Transparently, I'm not sure how good of a fit this will be to Lannon's situation. You might guess that Illinois suburb communities, a larger population. I haven't researched enough to figure out how much population factors into this. But nonetheless, what I'm asking for is authorization to kind of look into those details. And if it's a good fit, go ahead and prepare a grant application that would help fund the interconnect to Sussex. I put down what that other community received from this program was 1.3 million toward a $5.4 million project. So if successful, it's certainly it's an impactful amount of funding.
Mhm.
And these, the funds to conduct the study would be TID eligible.
Correct. So we are, that entire third source is TID eligible. You'll recall that we got almost the full $100,000 for the innovation planning grant. That was just purely grant, no match, that we're using for kind of continuing the negotiations and the financial studies, et cetera. But then when it comes down to actual construction dollars, this would help for that.
So that the immediate ask is to do the research to determine if we should apply, if it'd be a good fit. And then there'd be additional dialogue before an application actually gets submitted, or would you go ahead and make a submission if it's a good fit?
My ask would be to authorize us to make a submission if it's a good fit, without having to come back to the board. I would certainly, whether it's you, Dan, or Patrick, once we do the research, we'll talk to you about whether or not we think it's a good fit and what exactly it would involve, but just given the timing here, I thought it would be nice if we could get authorization to not have to bring it back to the board if we decide to apply.
Yeah, I think if it gets approved, I think just a quick call between the three of us should be appropriate.
And then I guess one more question I have is, does this lock us in? I know we were doing the study to determine like 2 or 3 or 4 different possible solutions for that third
Yep.
source.
Yep.
Does this lock us into one of those, or would it still equally apply to all possible solutions?
That's a great question I hadn't thought about, like more generically, the third source is intended to add that redundancy and resiliency, frankly, to the whole system. So whether that comes through building another well facility versus interconnecting to a neighbor, I guess I would research if both of those would both kind of fit the justification or not.
Yeah, I had a similar question because I don't think it's a secret that I'm not a real proponent of the interconnection option.
Sure.
I'd rather keep it within the community. And, you know, so to trustee Batista position is that, you know, that we have options. That it does not necessarily have to be used for just an interconnect with Sussex. And the reason for my reluctance is, for one example, is our fire and EMS contract with Menominee Falls. You know, and we have to do whatever we can to avoid any long-term negative repercussions that would happen if we were to partner with Sussex.
Understandable.
Well, hearing all of that, does anybody care to put forward a motion?
One more question.
Yeah.
So the 10 to 15,000 is TID eligible, so we would be borrowing it from the TID. And is that TID 1 or TID 2?
This would probably be a split.
Yeah, the third source is a project that's identified in both
plans. Yeah.
And I'll let you all know that while I think an interconnect is the most obvious thing that might make this align, I've also thought about, well, like would a water tower fit, or some of the, frankly, the water main loop through Jake's Park back toward Overstone would eliminate or would complete a loop to really make the system more resilient against water main breaks. Would even one of those internal projects qualify under this, or does it have to be the third source? So that's part of what I want to look into here on short order also.
And do you know your offhand if these grants, possible grant, is it partnership or is it in full? Is it, you know, 80-20, 60-40?
They will provide max up to 75-25. They're providing the 75, but I listed the example from that other community here because it looks like they got a little more than 20%.
Sure.
So I haven't researched like how exactly that criteria works and how they decide how much to award.
Is there a deadline on when this money has to be allocated? allocated or spent?
That's a great question. They do require that you at least have a concept design prepared, which we do have a concept design just from I think Patrick and Dan, you've seen it from those maps with the various components of the water main involved with them. I do not know when that money has to be spent. That's a good question, Don.
We just have to have the application in by the end of July.
I believe it's July 15th.
Okay, well, I'd like to forward a motion that the board authorize Strand to spend no more than $15,000 for further research into the grant application requirements for the FEMA BRIC grant, looking into a third water source interconnect, contingent on the request that prior to application being made, contact is made between Strand and the village president and Public Works Chair.
I will second.
There's a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Do we need to clarify that the funding is through the TID for the study expense? It was clarified during our discussion.
I don't know that we implicitly need to, it doesn't ever hurt, I don't think, to more
Well-
specificity.
Sure, I can
In this
amend my
case,
motion to state that those funds allocated for Strand to spend for the further research and possible application would be TID eligible funds.
I'll let you know a second.
Thank you. Any other thoughts, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Item 16, discussion, and thank you, Ben.
Yep.
Discussion and possible action regarding the land and quarry funds held at Waukesha County Community Foundation. You'll recall that we had some optionality there. There was a request made for us if we wanted to keep them where they were to sign up for a new agreement with them. The village can certainly hold those funds on their own, and I think that provides us a little more flexibility. Baker Tilly indicated that that's not an issue. We could, if I recall correctly, right, Brenda? Do you recall the same
I
thing?
do recall that. I was going to print out her email before the meeting and I didn't.
Yeah.
But
So,
yeah, she said that was fine.
she said we
It is
can, yeah.
separate.
Do a separate fund for that, and that I think frankly gives us a little better control and a little bit, we can be a little bit more nimble in our decision-making processes as we determine uses and needs for those funds. So my preference would be that we just have them disperse the funds to us, and that Brenda coordinates with Wendy to deposit and hold those funds at I'm guessing the, what's the state fund, there's one where we
Land
can,
trust fund.
there's a fund where we can hold funds that gain some interest, right?
Yeah, the local government investment.
That's what it is, yeah, the investment. So that would be my recommendation.
Is any reason why we would not do that? Because is it like an interest question or
So,
liquidity question?
I think the initial concern was a more about an ability to spend the funds out of our own kind of coffers, so to speak, on certain things, rather than them coming out of a separate fund. That it doesn't appear to be a concern anymore.
I think that's more of a concern when we were doing the water project.
Well, yeah, so there was an agreement that kind of had us bound to hold it separately there. That agreement has since termed out. We've gotten buy-in and concurrence from the quarry operators that we've met our obligations in terms of that, so it's really kind of now ours to hold and use the steward forward further projects towards that goal. We've discussed some of those, what we think some of those might be.
Who would manage those funds?
Well, if they go, well, the board will be in charge of those funds and using them. Those would get used through board's actions. And then
To compensate anyone that connects in the future?
for whatever we decide to do. So we've thrown some ideas out there. You know, I've personally expressed my feeling would be that, you know, I would like to make efforts to try to get all the private plumbing work done for Land and Village Hills and some of the other remaining properties along Good Hope Road done so that they get some of the same benefit that the rest of the people in the village got from all of that funding. And in preparation for future water availability in that neighborhood and, you know, Good Hope Road will likely get one way or another, whether we interconnect or not, we're gonna wanna put water main in at least to the roundabout. So that's one of the primary things that I think we should be looking at using that funding for. We also have 4 properties up on the corner of Custer and Maine. That there was still some kind of haggling back and forth about whether or not the quarries felt that we should be able to use the, you know, the excessive amounts of funds that those properties are going to specifically require. Just because of some of the geological and distance issues that we have to traverse to get water to their properties. And also the fact that those 4 properties still do not also have sewer hookups. Well, these funds were originally intended for water. So, you know, how do you balance that out? It makes a lot more sense to do them both at the same time. But there was some disagreements on eligibility or reasonableness of use of those funds for those purposes. But again, ultimately, those decisions would come to the board. Yes, sir.
Even though Waukesha County Community Foundation, like is and was holding funds, the board, the village board put into place like a temporary, well, I should say initially a 3-member committee that kind of made decisions, operated as like a pseudo governmental body, whatever. But quite frankly, that board has kind of outlived its original term also, so I could see it as a benefit to coming back under the village board. For that also.
Yeah, an added level of control and security, really.
Right, and those people outlived their, outserved, excuse me, and outlived, thank God, their commitment to that.
And then so the state fund that we're.
The investment pool.
Yes, what insurances or securities are there about putting that sum of money there? Banking or whatever, there's FDIC or NUCA insurance or whatever, it's.
That's a good question. I never thought to ask or question the
State of
I guess,
Wisconsin.
the, stability of that fund. Brenda, you would be a better source for any information on that.
I'm just trying to find Wendy's email.
The government will never go out of business.
No, just print more money.
So in all reality, this is just taking the money from county control, moving it to village control.
Sort of. It's not really in county control. It's just the Waukesha County Community Foundation. So it's not a county entity.
From the community foundation.
Yes, from the foundation to a different pool. It was gaining interest, it was earning interest in the community foundation. It would also, experience some earnings, in the state pool as well. I think they're comparable. I don't know the exact rates.
President Yates, I do have some information here. Would you like me to share with
Please
the
do.
State of Wisconsin Local Government Investment Pool? It provides a secure investment option for all Wisconsin local governments, including counties, cities, villages, towns, school districts, and other entities. By pooling local government funds with state funds, local governments may be able to realize generally higher yields over time. The LGIP provides local governments with the best of both worlds, blah, blah, blah. I don't need to be sold on this. On their website, they do have earnings summaries, financial reporting, and bond disclosure. Well, that would be for bonding. That wouldn't apply. Resolutions, policies and procedures, and reports. I do not see that it is FDIC. They're not listing it that way, but investments aren't normally FDIC insured anyway.
Right, so
It's-
we're essentially, we're taking it out of a high yield money market and we're putting it into the investment pool. Is that, am I over summarizing that?
I don't know that I would call a community foundation a high yield, but,
A low yield?
yeah, similar yield, yeah. Yep, it's moving it from one vehicle to another.
There is $7.2 billion in the fund as of June 2025.
We do pay a fee.
It's
for the
earning,
community foundation.
yeah, it's earning 4.3% per the month of June 2025. That varies every single month. High rates of return would be around 5.5% and low rates would be around 3.5%.
Almost, I guess that'd be high yield for,
No negatives
Something like
though.
that.
Yeah, they haven't shown any losses in the last 3 years as an investment fund.
Yeah, according to her email, it didn't necessarily say the LGIP fund, but it would
Oh.
just be its own separate fund, especially in like our accounting system, so that. And we could put it in the bank, we could put it in there, we could put it, just so that it's easy to transfer around when we need to. So,
Okay.
are there limitations to, withdrawals or
I'm
transactions
not sure
typically out
on
of
that,
the?
yeah, I think you may have to have a specific timeline in there and things like
Yeah.
that.
Or if there's maturities like bonds or whatever, so.
Yeah.
So
But
probably,
we'll definitely talk to her before.
yeah,
Yeah, so are we paying any management fees for where it's at now? And we wouldn't be paying any management fees unless we did the investment in the investment pool.
I believe we were previously paying management fees to the community foundation,
Yes.
but that term expired.
Oh,
And
that's
so
right.
we
And
are-
so
Why
they were
want a
just
new
sitting on
agreement.
it.
They wanted to
That's
move
right.
in
I do
because
recall
they're
that.
currently not getting paid for managing the account.
Right.
But there's also no, we don't have to pull it out.
not yet, but they did ask that we make a decision one way or the other, either pull it out or
Sign a new agreement.
sign a new agreement. So,
Well, do you feel like we have enough information now that I can make a motion, or would you like to table this pending?
Well, I think it depends on the level of comfort of the board, and whether or not you think there's enough reason to pull it from the foundation. But we would have to make some certain assumptions, I guess, without hearing specifically from Wendy about how she would recommend we
Mhm.
allocate the funds or split them up and what the returns might be or any associated costs might be. You know, maybe it'd be easier to make a final determination if we knew all those.
Mhm. I'd feel better about it.
How much money is in the fund right now?
Probably pushing close to 1.6 million.
Okay. Just thinking globally, regardless of where these funds are kept, do you think that it would be beneficial for the board to earmark what the segregated funds are to be used for? I raise that because, you know, it has not been that long since the quarries transferred the money to the community foundation. But the memories as to the rules of the game have faded. We've had new members on the board. And potentially this may be a fund that the board will want to maintain intact until there's actual construction and there's actual application. And so it's a question of, you want to make that decision right now to earmark the segregated fund? Or is that something that you need to think about some more? You can always change your mind, but I think it would be beneficial for the future board members to have a reminder, this money was put away for this purpose or that purpose. And it doesn't, from what I recall, it doesn't all necessarily have to be applied to a particular dispositional arrangement. And in fact, there was a question in my mind as to whether other properties that don't have water were within the scope of the well guarantee, which was basically the quid pro quo. In other words, the quarries were generous towards the village in exchange for being relieved of the well guarantee obligation. Maybe that might factor into this.
So I think basically what you've done is, in essence, is reinforce what I was stating earlier, that, you know, I think we have met those obligations and exceeded them, the original obligations in the agreement. You raise an interesting question because I simply always operated under the assumption that the funds would continue to be earmarked for the intended use. But that's my personal assumption. You know, I felt that it was important to try to spread the benefit of all of the good fortune that we had in obtaining grant funding and grants and donations from the quarries village-wide as equitably as possible, which is why I asked for us to go through the process of eliminating the impact fees and all the complicated zones associated with that, and coming up with the reserve capacity assessment that factored in every property in the village and all of the system-wide future costs, so that that cost and benefit got shared equally. So there's my spiel on how I think we should handle the funds going forward. To Hector's point, whatever we do, I think it's good advice to make sure that we clearly state that intent and have it memorialized in the record as to what the intent is for those funds going forward.
Well, I think that maybe we should table this until we can make a motion that says, this is the amount of money, this is where we're putting it. This is the publicly stated intent of those funds to be used for future and who controls them once they get transferred. I think we should outline all that, but I don't know that we know exactly where it's gonna go or why yet.
So I'll reach out to Wendy. Me and Brenda can coordinate with Wendy and get some of those answers and have her prepare a written recommendation for us. I think, my guess is that council is gonna recommend that this get memorialized in the form of some sort of resolution.
Right.
That will be presented to the board for approval.
So would you like a motion that authorizes you to carry that out, or should we table it and bring it back to the board? How urgent is this?
Yeah, it's,
This
we'd
item,
like
can
an
it-
answer sooner than later, but if we make a decision next month, the world's not gonna stop spinning.
Okay,
And is it possible to get Wendy to come here or at least have,
I can ask her.
you could, because I think there's, if it involves management fees, we have options. We could take out staggering CDs,
Mhm,
and not have to pay any management fee.
mhm. Yeah, we can certainly try to coordinate that and see if that's available. Her schedule's just always so crazy.
You might be able to do a call in though.
But with enough notice, yeah, we might be able to do that, because I think it'd be good for us to be able to ask different questions as different ideas come up, so.
mhm. Okay, well, I'd like to make a motion that agenda item number 16 for the discussion and possible action regarding the land and quarry funds be tabled until we're able to connect with Wendy Unger.
I'll second.
We have a motion and second to table until further information is available. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 17, discussion of possible action on approval of two-party contract between Procure and the Village of Atlanta for the professional real estate services necessary for the reconstruction of Good Hope Road. You wanna do these, Dan, or? You two, or Dan, or?
I'll do it.
Maybe George?
George is probably more knowledgeable than I am. So we talked about this last month. The question that came in with this two-party agreement with Procure. So this agreement is for the real estate assessment and negotiations for parcels on Good Hope Road, where the property line comes into the center of the road, or within the right-of-way extent that we need. We are looking at the reconstruction of Good Hope Road from essentially the roundabout to Main Street. And so to facilitate those improvements and reconstruction, looking at this real estate cleaning up the right-of-way came into question. George brought up some questions about, there's a road there currently, there's utilities that run across there. If we have an easement for that, do we need to acquire the property? And I think to answer those questions, we really need to move forward with the investigation that Procure is gonna do with pulling the deeds, pulling the plots, and looking at what information is recorded on the parcels, whether or not there's easements within them or where the utilities are shown. So I think this is a good first step to get the information that we need. And then we could maybe have a conversation at a later time as to if there's easements that exist and is that adequate, or would an acquisition of real estate be necessary? The question that came up last month, if you recall, was the funding for this, and clarifying if whether or not this was TID eligible for payment. There was correspondence with John Cameron from Ellers. He did confirm that the real estate investigation and negotiations and real estate acquisition would all be TID eligible expenditures.
I do have a question about that, because I was looking at the TID maps, and some of those properties fall outside of the TID boundaries, but they're within that
Half mile.
half mile, okay?
Anybody have any other questions? No? Yeah.
The last meeting, when I reviewed these materials, I was puzzled and I continue to be puzzled because as I see the contract, the one that involves the greatest number of dollars essentially involves an evaluation, an appraisal of the value of the acquisition of that territory that's not dedicated to the public. Now, I've asked myself, well, assume for the moment that they negotiate with the property owner, and the property owner says, you can offer me $1 million, but I'm not giving up that portion of my property. What happens next? Typically, when communities undertake a public works project, they pass a resolution of necessity, which basically is a signal that the community has to follow the statutory procedure under chapter 32, eminent domain condemnation. And the process there requires that first the community has to say, we need this, and it's for a public purpose. And then they commission an appraisal of the property that's being sought. And they then have the obligation of presenting that appraisal to the property owner. And under chapter 32, the property owner then has the ability to go out and get his or her own appraisal. And that's paid for by the community. And then negotiations start. And the law is set up in such a way that at the end of the day, you make a final offer. And you acquire it's called the jurisdictional offer. At that point, the property owner has so many days to accept or reject the jurisdictional offer. And if it's not accepted, the community has, by legal right, the ability to gain possession or ownership of that land. Now, that's not to say that the property owner is left helpless. At that point, the property owner has a period of about 2 years to challenge the fairness of the award given. And if the property owner can beat the last final offer of the community by 15% or more, then the property owner is entitled to the payment of attorney fees associated with that. And that can take place sometime after the land has been acquired and incorporated into the project. So therein lies my confusion. What exactly is happening here?
So, all right, so you're asking what exactly are we looking to do?
Yeah.
So what has come into play here is Good Hope Road is in need of reconstruction. And so what's being discovered or being investigated is the feasibility of completely reconstructing Good Hope Road, updating any utilities that may need to, which I think as part of this or as in addition to this would be the extension of the water main, possibly some updates to stormwater infrastructure, sanitary manholes, things of that nature. The feasibility is also being studied of whether or not pedestrian or bike access routes would be incorporated into this. So, you know, there might be sidewalk that gets added to one side or both sides or a combination thereof to Good Hope during the reconstruction process. Maybe that's by narrowing the drive lanes or reducing the shoulders to put that in. not necessarily by increasing the right of way. But nothing is made final just yet, as we haven't started the design process yet, but all of those elements is essentially what's going to play. Ben, you can correct me if I'm wrong. But the concern and why the real estate acquisition is coming in is essentially because the property lines, there is no established property line at a traditional right of way, which would traditionally be, 30 to 40 to 60 feet off the center line of the road, varies by the width of the road. Many of these parcels, that lot line actually comes to the center line of the road. There's some varying conditions all throughout Good Hope Road as to where that lot line is located. So essentially, that road is potentially built on possibly private property. Utilities put on private property. Now, there's likely easements that have been granted over time for that to occur, because this had to have happened at one point in time, because how else did the road get built? How did the utility structures get put into place on private property 20, 30 years ago? So whether it was not documented correctly, or whether they established easements rather than purchasing the property, I don't know. But essentially the intent is to reconstruct Good Hope within the existing footprint, or very close to the existing footprint. Ben?
Yeah, and I'll just add, because the project is being funded with money from WISDOT, which is filtered down through a federal program, it has to follow federal rules, so I'm not real intimately familiar with them, but I know that the property acquisition process for a federally funded project is a lot more rigorous than it is for a locally funded project. So part of what's going to happen in CORE's early phase is they're going to do an alternatives analysis about establishing what the typical road width should be to function as the village would like it to. We're looking at sidewalks, the addition of sidewalks, which could add some things. Right now, what Dan was alluding to with the existing right-of-way, everyone's property frontage has a little bit different line along this portion of Good Hope Road relative to the width of the road. And some go to the center line of the road. And what Dan was talking about, there is a, kind of a jurisdictional right to a certain width that the village already has. But because it's federally funded, they make you follow all of the best practices, which is to go kind of straighten out all of those right-of-way issues. So I have not read the contract. I don't know exactly what is being accomplished, but I do know that Dan and I had a meeting with the representative from Kapor, quantified an assumed number of properties that could get impacted by the change in geometry to the corridor here. And then the tasks involve doing the 50-year title search on each of the properties and kind of following all of that. Now, I know that because federal funds are involved, if it was just a local village process, someone could go knock on the door and ask, hey, can we have 10 more feet, sign here, or whatever. WISDOT doesn't allow you to do that. They require that you compensate for that. So this is all kind of the preliminary work to kind of get our bearings. And then at this point in time, we've made an assumed number of properties that we might actually have to acquire. And once we get through the design alternatives phase, they'll have kind of like a final quantity on that. But I understand they need to kind of like get under contract now to start doing the deed and title work.
So let me see if I maybe have properly interpreted maybe your concerns, Hector, and that is, actually, there's multiple pieces to it. In that there's a time concern through first of all, the resolution of, let's say justification or necessity, right?
Yeah.
So I think there would be a question of whether or not that might be required, or it might help facilitate this process regardless of which route it goes. It might be a good best practice to still do that. Secondarily, Kapur is basically subcontracting this to somebody else who's gonna negotiate on their behalf, for our behalf. And what Hector's, I believe, alluding to is regardless of what the federal contract dictates, there's Wisconsin state law that has presumably some precedent or overarching authority over this process through the condemnation process, which may or may not be accomplished for this proposed amount. It's yet to be determined what those negotiations really end up being. And if for whatever reason, some of those negotiations or settlements get challenged at a later date, there might be additional exposure, I think is what you're saying. And in Article 7 of this thing, it looks like it limits our exposure or their exposure to $500,000. Last page there in the signature page. It's a limit of liability. Did I capture those concerns?
I think you did. Let me try to put it in a slightly different way. I think the materials that we have present two aspects of this process. The first aspect is that which Kapur has got to figure out the lay of the land, so to speak. The second aspect that worries me more so is the proposed subcontracting to single source. Because single source is charging for negotiating, for appraisals. And I ask myself, to what end, if in fact, at the end of the day, there's a refusal by the property owner to cooperate, we need to be able to exert the public purpose aspect of this. So my reaction had been, subject to talking to the board and anyone else, is to postpone the approval of the single source contract until Kapur formulates what the game plan is in a general way. And we have a basis that the resolution of necessity can look to. We have a need for a roadway which encompasses these elements based on the report from Kapur, given what we have or don't have. And then negotiations can commence with the property owners following the enactment of a resolution of necessity and the appraisal pursuant to state law.
Yeah, I understand, Hector, what you just said makes total sense to me. I'll tell you, my understanding is that well, I know that Kapur gave the village an option where the village could separately contract with whomever it desires to do this real estate related work. Trustee Batiste and I wanted the responsibility and authority for the timeline of those services to be underneath Kapur strategically, because we're under a relatively tight overall time frame relative to when it has to be constructed. Kapoor made it clear that the village could contract separately, but that Kapoor would kind of absolve themselves from any responsibility to the project schedule and the funding schedule if if the real estate slowed down the rest of the project. So that is just about the why, the subcontracting versus contracting directly. I know this won't hold a lot of weight, but Strand also does transportation projects. We also subcontract single source. They seem to have a niche. I cannot even speak to their reputation, et cetera. I have the impression that what they do carries through the jurisdictional offer, not through like follow-up eminent domain type things, but the way that they go about it kind of is all kind of marching in line, that if it had to go the next steps, like all the prior steps would have been completed appropriately, if that makes sense up until that point. And I understand, well, what I think I understand you saying is like, well, why get under contract, authorize the single source contract now, if it sounds like Kapoor has to do some work to know exactly which properties are even going to be impacted. They did kind of make a reasonable estimate based on some reasonable initial assumptions, but quite frankly, I can't tell you why it was important to get this scope under contract, either subcontracted to Kapoor directly with Village Now, but I know it was important to Kapoor. I wish they were here to speak to that. One question that I have is agenda item 18 is a three-party contract, so that's between the village, Kapoor, and the state. And I wonder if there might be something in that contract that has to say these real estate services are indeed being handled another way, that perhaps inaction might somehow inadvertently delay that. But not really being an expert on that, I can't tell you what to do with agenda item 17, but I will tell you agenda item 18, that's really critical to get that one going so that can stay on schedule. I just don't know how 17 tabling that may or may not impact the schedule of things. But if anything, I would say rather than tabling 17 until it's quote unquote needed, because then there might be a gap where, okay, now we got to get in the queue, so to speak, with them, get under contracted in the queue. I don't know if they intend on starting some of their title work earlier, but I would suggest at least tabling it. If you're inclined to table it, just table it for a month so that Kapoor's project manager can put together an explanation of everything we're trying to talk through here.
Well, given that there is urgency here and we're bumping up against the deadline, my thought is that the board consider approving the two-party contract number 17 between Kapoor and the village for professional real estate services. The agenda does not talk about the approval of a contract with single source. And that the village also consider approving item number 18, the three-party contract, with the understanding that starting tomorrow, we would investigate the questions that I've raised, because otherwise single source is going to be spending or being paid $160-some thousand for work efforts, which may not at the end of the day be usable because the resolution of necessity has not been enacted in the beginning. And maybe we can get some clarification, because I have to admit to you that I've not worked on this kind of a contract, and I'm just going on the basis of what I've seen in writing and have not participated in any discussions which have been preliminary in nature.
So your concern is essentially this single source, this contract is for roughly 36 parcels that there's a lot line conflict with. And your concern is, well, if 35 agree but one doesn't, you know, what do we do then, right? So that's kind of what
Exactly,
you're
you've got to
speculating.
start from the beginning at that point, redo some of the things that we're going through here.
Right, and so your recommendation is without a resolution being passed, that if one property owner didn't wanna sell that right of way space, that we would not be able to proceed or move forward with the reconstruction of Good Hope.
Well, it will delay us. I mean, we have to start from the beginning, pass the resolution of necessity, and go through the time period. And this isn't something that happens overnight. It could take as long as 6 months.
Mhm.
So it sounds to me though, like regardless, we should probably have that resolution of necessity prepared
Yes,
for approval at next month's meeting.
if that's warranted here, hoping we understand what the process is. What is the end game? The end game is supposed to be
To clean up the parcels, the lot lines, right? And so, I mean, I think regardless of what action we take on 17 and 18 tonight, what I'm hearing from you is that there might be a very real possibility, hopefully not, but there's a real possibility that maybe a parcel or multiple parcels get challenged. It seems to me like you're recommending that we take preemptive measures to make sure that we have the authority necessary under section 32 of the statutes to move forward.
So do we need to take a vote on the, seeing this is not on the agenda, is it possible for us to take a vote on having you draft the resolution of necessity?
Oh, I can do that without any
Yeah.
formal action on a
Yeah.
standby basis.
Yeah.
Subject to my participating in conference call.
Yeah, I
with
think that
the
sounds
board
like.
representative
Yeah.
Yeah.
To find out exactly, you know, what their take is on this.
So your recommendation though is that we authorize the two-party contract with Kapoor, exclusionary of the subcontractor portion with source one
Single
or
source.
single source, excuse me, until we can obtain clarification.
Yes,
So you only authorize that for task A and not task B, is that what you're saying?
Well, that's what it sounds like, except that, well, yeah, because
Yep.
task B does.
It's all
specifically
single
reference
source.
Single source.
I think the assumption of this contract is that there is going to be no resistance to what needs to be done. And it's possible that there is no resistance, but I agree with counsel that we have to foresee the fact that somebody might say, I'm going to hold out just for the sake of holding out. And then there is a legal recourse that we can follow, but we have to have our ducks in a row.
Yeah, I think the prudent thing is to make sure that we've taken all the necessary precursory or prerequisite steps to be able to act quickly if we need to adjust, given the tight timeframes.
So then if I was to formulate a motion for agenda item number 17, I would task trustee Batiste to go ahead and execute, partially execute the contract between Kapoor and the Village of Lannon, excluding the subcontract for single source until council has the opportunity to have that conference call and draft a resolution of necessity regarding item number 17. Does that sound accurate? Thank you.
I understand the desire for that, but the sub-consultant is 99% of this document.
Mhm.
And task A and what the Corps is doing is administering and coordination of it. They're not performing any of it, so I'm not sure what we gain with the partial approval.
Okay,
Well, we have a motion, let's get a second and then we can have discussion. Do we have a second
I'll
on the
second.
motion? So, all right, so now we have a second and discussion. So the task A, is that not a lot of the title work and?
No,
no,
No?
no, all of that's in task B,
Oh, so they're not doing anything.
correct.
That's just their cut of the,
That's their fee for administering, for coordination, basically for being the.
in charge of.
The neck to strangle, so to speak.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay.
Right.
So how do we find a way to keep the project moving forward while still addressing the concerns of council? If we feel those are valid concerns, which I suggest we should consider valid because we know how easily it is for people to be contrary.
What if you were, if I may suggest, what if you were to approve it on the condition that the final form of the contract was found satisfactory to the village attorney?
Mhm.
And if we get answers and it's all pretty apparent, then the village could go ahead and execute it. If it's different and someone needs to come back next month, come back.
Yeah, and I think, and no offense, Hector, but you admitted that, this is kind of new territory for you. Even. So it's quite possible that upon further examination or possibly with some clarification through a phone call that, maybe Hector's just overreacting. Maybe his impulse or knee-jerk reaction is, whoa, hey, what's going on here? And
That's his job.
yeah, and that's his job, and he may, like I said, with further time and study, may determine, oh, okay, I'm okay with this. So
Don't we need a special board meeting for the end of the month again anyway?
we do, like probably sometime next week for the bid award.
So maybe we could find out before that time and put it on.
That's reasonable. Yeah, good point, Brenda.
Yeah. Assuming, we can people accommodate a, special meeting next week? Generally speaking, I don't have a specific.
After work hours would be my preference, but yeah.
Yeah, mine too.
Mhm.
All right, doesn't sound like anybody's got any trips to Maui planned or.
Okay, well, we have a motion and a second that we have
Yep.
to vote on,
Yep.
and then we can make a new motion addressing
Yep.
that, right?
That is correct.
Revise the motion.
It's probably better to just.
Let's
vote
defeat
and,
my motion and propose a new one.
Yeah, so, we have a motion, a second. All in favor? All opposed?
Nay.
That might be a first.
I just
Someone
defeated
voting
my
against
own
their
motion.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to keep this show on the road is what I'm trying to do.
Literally, I look and I get it and appreciate everyone's willingness to talk through that and
Mhm.
for the guidance sector. Okay, so seeing that motion failed, I would entertain an alternative motion.
I make a motion that we table item number 17 until the upcoming, yet to be scheduled special village meeting to give time for council to further get some answers to questions regarding item number 17.
I'll second.
So we have a new motion and a new second. Any other discussion on that? All in favor of tabling?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Tabled it until the next special meeting.
Yes.
Which is presumably next week.
next week. So try to set up that conference call.
Yeah.
In the next week.
You got homework to do. Yeah. You don't have a dog, do you?
Okay,
All right,
so-
discussion and possible action on approval of a three-party contract between Wisdot, Village of Landon, and Kapoor for the design and engineering services project for the reconstruction of Good Hope Road with Wisdot project ID 2752-05-00. And I don't do a lot of these, but my guess is don't mess around with this one.
So I think, so again, we spoke about this last month. This three-party contract is between Wisdot, Village of Lannon, and Kapoor. This is for the design purposes of the Good Hope Road reconstruction. This does not cover any construction administration or construction costs. So there, I believe there was a last minute revision to incorporate some additional tasks for traffic study with future developments for the Collie Farm. And was there something else, Ben?
Might have been something minor related to storm water. I don't recall specifically either, but I know that I believe because it's a three-party contract, Wisdot also reviewed it. They had a couple of comments that I believe were incorporated.
And as a result of those changes, there is a revised fee structure, which I believe was in total $739,158.63. So that is roughly $40,000 higher roughly than what it was originally. If I have that correct.
This one. Super thick one. Yeah, this one, okay.
So. And this one is, time is of the essence to move forward with this one in order to achieve our projected construction dates in 2028.
Yeah, and they're, looks like in here, they've got final right-of-way plat set for like Thanksgiving.
Mhm.
I'll just point out quick here that in the funding agreement, the design total amount was $805,000, with the federal funds covering $644 or
Just getting
80% of
started.
that. So the 739, just slightly under 740 still fits within the funded budget amount.
Mhm.
And that 739 is split. It's 80-20, correct?
Correct.
So do we have any other any comments from you, Ben? Anybody want to make a motion?
I will make a motion that we approve the third-party contract between Wisconsin DOT, Village of Lannon, and Kapoor for the design and engineering services project for the reconstruction of Good Hope Road.
Just to clarify, three-party rather than third-party.
Oh, I'm sorry, three-party, correct.
I was second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Just for fun, I'll ask another question.
Mhm.
Since we tabled item 17 to next week, what would happen in the event that we do not take action on item 17? Essentially, that is to acquire the property that we would need to build or to reconstruct the existing road.
The intent of tabling 17 is to, is to give council time to investigate some questions that I think are valid, to maybe get his resolution of necessity in process for our next meeting, which will be a special meeting. And I don't think our intent is to not pass it. Our intent is to pass it in the full knowledge that it is the right thing to do while still protecting the village from potential pitfalls in the process of doing it. So I don't have a lot of concern that 17 isn't going to get there, even if it's slightly modified to make council feel that he's protecting the interests of the village.
I would also suggest that as the three-party design contract moves forward, you would basically just have to give Corps the direction that you have to reconstruct this road within whatever jurisdictional right of way we already have without changing it. Maybe that means no sidewalk on part of it. Something to that.
Right, right.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, any other questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 19, discussion and possible action on lift station pump repairs. Do you want to read this one, or was this a Ben?
This looks a little bit different from what I saw in one of the last emails. But I certainly can read through this proposal, because the valuation was a little bit different than what I recall being discussed. So what we have here is a proposal from Dorner to the city of Sussex. There's 3 items listed on here in description. Item number 1 being lifting chain replacement at Good Hope Lift Station and Main Street Lift Station. Good Hope will require 2 20-foot lengths and 1 new shackle. Main Street requires 2 30-foot lengths and 1 shackle. Item number 2 is for Lannon, for Good Hope Lift Station Pump 2 repairs, including a new mechanical seal assembly, pulling the pump, repairing at the Dorner shop, and reinstallation of the pump, and then startup and commissioning. And item number 3 is for the Custer Lift Station Pump number 2, which includes a new mechanical seal assembly, pulling the pump, repairing at their shop, and reinstallation of a pump, and then startup and commissioning. There was discussion through some of the email chains about some of these items possibly being under warranty still.
Yeah, because that third line item for Custer Lane, that pump is still under partial prorated warranty, so. It's a separate company from Dorner, and I believe Sussex is coordinating that other company to get out and prepare a quote for that.
Okay, so essentially, we would be asking for approval for items 1 and 2 and excluding item 3 on this proposal, with the intent that item number 3 can be handled as warranty by a different service company.
Warranty or partial warranty?
I believe it's partial. It was something like the first year or two was 100%, then it drops to 75, 50, 25, and on that.
Between 3 and 4 years.
Yeah, I forget if it's 25% or 50% warranty yet on the.
Certainly new enough that you wouldn't expect an issue already.
Yeah.
Okay, and then this would all just be, come out of the sewer fund.
Comment on this, President?
Yeah.
I don't know if Dorner could come and look at it, but there are 3 lift station pumps in the garage. 2 of them are old. One is tagged, can be used in a pinch. The other one is brand new in the box. I don't know if they wanna look at that to see if it's still the same design, if it's operable or feasible to use it. Instead of rebuilding the other one.
Did you order attic stock for pumps? I can't imagine, right?
Well, Sussex
I
or
know we had some
Menominee
for
Falls might
repairs.
have, cause there's all kinds of old water meter stuff back there, sewer stuff back there that,
Yeah, I
But
think
that pump
Menominee
is,
Falls
that pump
came
is
out
brand new in the box.
yeah.
And I was
That's
told
right.
it was a lift station pump.
Remember you showed me that. It's kind of small though. I would think a lift station pump would be a lot bigger than that. I wonder if that's a grinder pump.
I don't, but that's why I said maybe daughter could come look at it, see what it is. I was told they were lift station pumps.
Are they boxed or?
One of them, just a new one.
Maybe we can get a photo of it.
But it's a box, it's only a box. Like,
No, it's,
it's big in minutes, like
yeah, it's heavy.
tall.
I could.
Of course.
Only when you have your cape on, right?
Right.
Speaking of moving sewage.
Okay, so sounds to me like you're looking for a motion to proceed with 1 and 2. And conditional. How are we gonna do that for the third item?
Well, can we authorize trustee Batiste to authorize, so we can approve, well,
Not to exceed this full amount, but assuming it's gonna be less based on adjustments for warranty.
Yeah.
Well, we could approve items 1 and 2 and exclude item 3, and then if, based upon what's determined as covered under warranty, then we could do a separate quote for item 3.
Sure. I like that. I do that one. Colin.
okay, well,
And
to
then
further confuse
this
this,
motion.
it's all item number 1 and it's all quantity number 1, but we'll assume that a line, we'll just call it line item. So I would like to make a motion to authorize trustee Batiste to execute the repairs to item number 1, which would be the Good Hope lift station. Item number 2, which is the pump number 2 at Good Hope lift station. And excluding item number 3, which would involve the Custer lift station until warranty coverage is investigated.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 20, discussion of possible action on operators license applications. Looks like they're both complete and
Approved per chief. So I'm gonna make a motion that we approve the application for a license to serve fermented malt beverages and intoxicating liquor for Morgan Frederick at McDougall and Brianna McLaughlin at 1229.
Second.
motion and seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Morgan Fredericks, responsible beverage class completed, Mark, no. Does that have to be completed before this?
We have to, we get the certification before we give it to them.
Yeah, it says,
We'll email.
We'll email.
no, that's the first one for Morgan Frederick.
That's the one he's
That's
talking
what we're
about.
talking about.
Oh, yeah, it says we'll email at the top, yeah.
Just clarifying.
Mhm.
We didn't vote on that. did we?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Excuse me. Item 21, discussion of possible action regarding appointment for plan commission. I think I had previously warned you all that it was my intent to appoint Mr. Newman to the plan commission again. He has expressed interest in serving on that again. So I would ask for the board basically to just acknowledge that appointment. of a vote here. Yes. Did I just make a motion or do a roll call vote or ask for a motion? How do you want me to do this?
Recommend the appointment of Mr. Gerald Newman, subject to confirmation by the board by majority vote.
Okay. And so I guess I would just put it to a vote then. Who's in favor of that appointment?
Can I ask a follow-up question or clarifying question?
Sure.
For what, can you state the term? Is it gonna be, because planning commission is a 3-year term?
He would be finishing Mr. Grimm's term.
Okay.
But I thought the whole reason he didn't want to serve on our board was because he didn't have time, so what changed that now he's got time to satisfy that position instead?
Ben, thank you for coming. I wasn't aware of what precipitated the reason to not run again. Simply took into consideration that he had requested to serve on that commission.
Kerry had a business deal working that would have taken him out of the country most of last summer.
Well, and I think if he was public works chair, being on the board was a lot more work than just being on. the
Right.
commission.
It's a lot more involved,
Yeah.
for sure.
Mhm.
So I guess I would just ask for how many would, or who would vote in the affirmative to reappoint Mr. Newman to the Plan Commission to fill the remainder of Commissioner Grimm's term, pending his resignation. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's unanimous. Okay. Jerry's a popular guy.
He knows a lot.
Yeah.
He knows where all the bodies are buried,
Literally.
literally.
Okay, excellent. So Brenda, if you want to just notify Mr. Newman that.
Yes, I believe he's still out of town, but
Yes.
We don't have a meeting next week anyway, do we? Yeah.
We're pulling him off the bench again. Okay, item 23, engineers report, he just split.
no, we need to move bills.
Oh, payment of bills, yeah.
Sorry, discussion, and I didn't want to pay those. Discussion and possible action on the
You take
payment of
the
the
full
bills.
I'll make a motion that we pay the bills as presented by Brenda.
I'll second.
So we have a motion and a second to pay the bills as presented by Brenda. I would just remind, or for the record, there was an additional.
Yes, with the assessor special
Yeah,
charge.
in addition to the bills, as
$4,000
previously notated.
$275.
In the finance and personnel committee. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Bless you.
Motion carried. Engineers report, he's still gone. Item 24, attorney's report. You've talked enough tonight, haven't you?
Yeah, I want to get a footnote in here.
Denied.
It has been alluded, we've gotten some cooperation from AFW Foundry, I understand. But I don't know exactly what they've done, so I would ask Brenda to brief us all on that.
Sure, they've contacted me, a couple weeks ago, he wanted to come in and discuss what he needed to submit for his plans of operations, et cetera. I gave him some blank forms, kind of separated out the manufacturing process tax keys versus the leasing out of the property tax key. Kind of gave them some maps of the site plans and what needed to be included on them. They came back last Monday, Patrick was in the office. The plans of operations were looking good, they needed some site plan stuff, and copies, I was really all that they were missing and needed to come back with, so, they're headed in the right direction.
A couple of the hitches will probably be he did not have any copies of the leases, which I requested. He had. He did have plans of operations from the different entities. But as you can imagine, it's further complicated because HM Grant is apparently now subleasing a portion of somebody else. While also considering and negotiating a possible purchase of the land, as mentioned previously. Those discussions are ongoing because there is not a good natural delineation of the current parcels that accounts for one of the outbuildings to the west side of the property. There's a structure that they still use that is actually contained in a large single parcel that HM Grant would purchase. The AFW Foundry parcels, facility sits on about three or four other parcels. I made a recommendation that they consider a CSM to redelineate, to include the building that they want and to combine the front lots into a single tax key and leave the other one as a single tax key if they wanted to pursue that sale. Or they might have to consider selling it and then releasing it back from HM Grant, which did not seem to be the favorable route. But to Brenda's point, we have regular contact, we have cooperation, and we are moving in the right direction.
And who brought in the materials? Who is the representative?
Jose,
Their attorney that we contacted, Rob DeYoung, told our office that he was puzzled as to why he was getting correspondence because he hadn't represented this company in a number of years.
So his name was Jose, and I believe he is listed, I have to.
The plant manager, yeah.
Operations Manager,
Mhm.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
So,
nice guy though. So we're getting there bit by bit.
Nothing further.
Okay. All right, in that case, that gets to me. I think a lot of the other stuff's already been covered in here. I will just wish a congratulations and a thank you to our newly re-elected trustees. Thank you for continuing to volunteer your time, talents, and opinions.
And fact checking.
Yeah. So thank you very much to you three. And with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
A motion to adjourn in a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We're adjourned.
I was 1 minute off.
Did you have the adjournment pre-filled at 9:05?
Yes, I did.
That's probably close enough for
Well,
that.
it was originally like 8:30 something, and then I had to readjust.